guys, welcome back for episode number 123 of the weekly playback. Now, I have a crap ton of games to talk about, but I'm not going to get through all of them today because I think that it's been like a month since I've shot a weekly playback video at this point or something like that because of like Essen and then COVID. So all the games that I've played since the last time I shot a video, I'm going to list them all right now, and I'm not going to be able to talk about all of them in this video because I don't want this video to be like 6 hours long. So if there's a game on this list that you would like me to go into greater detail about, and I didn't discuss it in this video, you can let me know in the comments below and I'll try to talk about it in the next video. So all the games that I've played since the last time I shot a weekly playback are Mutagen, Tend, Kelp, Rebel Princess, Castle Combo, Night Sky Explorers, Cat in the Tower, Roaring Twenties, Intarja, Phoenix Farm, Mycology, River Valley Glassworks, and Mezen. And the only one of those that I've previously talked about is Mezen. I think this is all the games. Who knows? I might even be forgetting one or two that I played at Essen that maybe I didn't even keep put in my BG Stats app. Who knows? But these are the ones that I can remember that I have played since the last time I shot a video. And again, I'm not going to be able to talk about all of them today. So if I don't talk about one, let me know which ones you would like me to talk about in greater detail, and I will try to do those in the next video. So yeah, so let's just get started. So let's talk about Mutagen. Mutagen is a 2025 game for 1 to 4 players designed by Alexandros Kapidakis, and the art is done by the Micho and is published by Dronda Games. This game is currently on Kickstarter, and I did a sponsored overview video for this game. So I played a 3-player game of this at Essen, and I currently do not have the rules printed out. Since I played it at Essen, I just refer to the rules on my laptop, so hopefully I can bring up the rules if I do have any rules questions. So yeah. So anyway, so here is the board, and on this board, this is a worker placement game, so you're going to see a bunch of different worker placement locations. So each big like glob is basically a worker placement location, and the spots, those rectangle spots, are where you can place workers. You'll only be using all of the spots in a 4-player game, so you'll see some like marks on the various spots to indicate how many spots are available in a, in a whatever count player game that you are playing of this. And this game is played over 4 rounds, and each person is going to have 3 workers. So your 3 workers are the thug, the spy, the engineer, and 4 workers, and then the robot. So let me just pull out the workers and show you some of them. So I guess I'll show you the green ones. And these are really nice screen printed meeples, and they are pretty chunky. And oh wow, the detail on those is really nice, and they're screen printed on both sides. So that one is the thug, I believe. Here is the robot, and yeah, so the robot can take the role of any other worker when you place him, and I'll talk about how that works. Oh, just flung that worker. Anyway, which one haven't I showed you yet? I think I haven't showed you this one yet. So each person is going to have their own player board, and you are going to have your workers situated on your player board over here in their slot, and the robot goes up here. And you're going to have upgrades that will basically upgrade your workers, like special abilities. I don't remember exactly what they're called in the rule book, but let me just show you an example of one of those. No, those. Nope, not those. Maybe these. So yeah, so at the beginning of the game, you're going to pick one of these. So they're going to be out, and you'll be drafting these, I believe, in reverse player order or something like that. So you're going to decide which worker you want to place this next to, in which slot. And by the end of the game, you'll have 4 of these because you're going to be drafting one at the beginning of each round, depending on player order. And you'll also be able to take the matching thing to add onto your worker, like physically add it onto your worker. So there are these like printed components that will just slot onto your worker, which is pretty cool. Totally not necessary. I mean, it's just something fun that you can do throughout the game. So for example, if you had a card with that attachment symbol on it, then you would attach it to your worker, and that would show everyone that, yeah, that's an upgraded worker. And we'll talk about what it means for a worker to be upgraded. I'll just go over the different areas of your board. So here is the airship. This is where you're going to be storing different elements that you're collecting, and you start with 2 spots available for you to place elements. One is a neutral spot. This one happens to be purple. And then in order to add more and more elements to your ship, you're going to need to increase your storage. So you need to add storage to your ship in order to be able to add more and more elements to your ship. And of course, there is a shard cost in order for you to pay to be able to add more and more storage. And here is where you'll be storing elements that you collect that you want to turn in order to complete tree cards. And tree cards will award you shards, and they'll also give you end of game points for different matching sets that you have. So we'll go into all of that. So on your turn, you're going to place a worker and then do the main action of that location. So the main action of a location is the one that is indicated like right on the top. And then depending on which worker you placed, you can also do the action that is associated with your worker. You'll look at the matching symbol. So even if I placed, like, for example, in this top slot, if I was the first worker to go there and I placed, like, for example, my spy, even though the spy is not directly across from me, I would see where the spy is and then see what action is available to the spy, and I can also do that action. So you will always be able to do the main action of the location that you're at, plus the action of the worker you placed. And additionally, if your worker has an upgrade next to it on your player board, you can pay the cost in shards in order to do that action as well. So for example, here, if I wanted to do this action as well, I would pay 1 shard in order to do this action if this happened to be next to my spy and I just placed my spy. And this one would allow me to grab, it looks like a card, or is that an element? I can't tell. I believe it's an, it's an element, so I'll be able to grab like an element from this location on the board. It looks like an element, it's kind of hard to tell. But yeah, I think that's an element. So different cards will allow you different abilities, of course. Like for example, this one would just straight up give you 2 points. So if you wanted to, you would not even have to spend any shards. You would just get 2 points in order to activate this. The second number that you see in shards is what you have to pay if you want to do a follow action. So what that means is suppose someone else places a worker directly following your worker in a location. After they've completed their actions, and you can complete your actions in any order you want, you can follow, I think that's what the word was, the official word, I don't remember, and you can now complete an action that is on your card here by paying the cost in shards. So you would only be doing the action that is on a card that is next to your worker. So that's a cool little way to get extra actions throughout the game. So what you're going to be doing is trying to collect elements in order to complete your airship. Add to your airship, because at the end of each round, you're going to score points for all of the elements in your airship. Now, when you're placing storage and elements, you have to be careful because you cannot place 2 of the same kind adjacent to each other. And that means 2 of the same color or 2 of the same types of elements. There are different types of elements in this game. Like, for example, there are some that look like diamonds. There are some that look like cubes or clouds or whatever. So different kinds of elements. So I'll show you an example. And they have symbols in the corner to kind of help you realize which ones are the same. Oh, actually, maybe this corner symbols actually tell you about the color, not the symbol, actually. Yeah, I think they refer to the color, not the symbol. Because I'm trying to find 2. Okay, so like for example, these 2 are the same type, not the same color. So they're both the same thing. So I think the symbol in the corner actually is for color blindness. But here's like another 2 of the same type, but different colors. So you cannot have the same type or the same color next to each other in your airship. So that kind of, adds a bit more to the game when you're trying to just, choose where you want to place your worker, because there's going to be elements placed out onto the board, and that's what's available to you in order to collect on your turn when you go to a different worker location spot. So I'll just go over the different areas on the board and talk about what you can do there. So there's a variety of spots on this board. So up here you can take one of the tree cards and complete it. So you can't do that, obviously, if there's a tree card there for which you have not met the requirements to complete. So for example, if this tree card was up there and I had already collected all 3 of these elements, then I could go over here and complete this tree card and immediately gain the 8 shards and add it to my like little tableau to show that I completed that. And then of course I would get to do the action of the worker that I placed. And again, a robot can take the action of any of the other 3 types. So this one would allow me to go into this worker location, which is down here, and collect a shard. This one would allow me to, it looks like, advance 1 space up here by turning in an element. It looks like this one, I can't tell what that is. It looks like you can collect an element or put down an element or something like that. I can't tell exactly. Up here, you would get to advance on one of these element tracks if you go here and do the main action. And then again, there are some secondary actions of the workers you have. Down here, as you can see, there are empty spots here. There are elements that would have been there, so the main action is to take one of those elements. Over here is a spot for a character card, so I'll show you a couple of those in a second, but those will give you like end of game points if you take a character card. And there's no cost to pay if you take a character card by doing the secondary action that is over here of this worker, if that's the worker you placed. Down at the bottom, again, there's more elements you can get, and there's also character cards. Over here, the main action is to spend shards in order to go around this progress track, and there's going to be little tiles along the way that if you pass them or land on them, you'll get to get the bonus that's listed on those tiles. And over here, the main action is again to take an element, and then there are secondary actions of getting like a character card or taking a storage. Oh yeah, so at the bottom over here, there's going to be a storage tile, so you might be able to take a storage tile. And at the bottom over here, there's also space for storage tiles, and over here. So there are 3 places on the board where you might be able to get a storage tile. But getting the storage tile is a secondary action. It is the action of your worker, not the main action. So let me just show you some of the character cards, and those are like end game points. Yeah, so here's like an example of a character card. So yeah, they'll give you points for a different variety of things at the end of the game. So yeah, so basically on your turn, you're just going to place one of your workers, and then you can complete all of your actions that you have available to you. So that includes your main action, then the worker specific action, and then if your worker was upgraded, your upgraded actions if you pay the cost in shards. And you can do your actions in any order that you want, which is really helpful because sometimes you might be able to get something that you need in order to spend on something else. So then after you've completed your actions, if you placed your worker immediately following another player's worker, this does not apply to your own worker, so you cannot like follow your own worker. So then the other person whose worker was directly above yours, they will get to do their upgraded action from their board if they want to by paying cost in shards. If they don't want to follow, they can always just collect 1 shard as a reward instead. And the same applies for you. If you have an upgrade to your worker and you don't want to spend the shards to do the upgraded action, you can always just collect 1 shard instead. So at the end of each round, you're going to score for how far along you are on the element tracks on the board. So you'll see over here the point value. Depending on where your marker is in each row, you will score a certain number of points. I found it kind of difficult to go up on this track. Like it wasn't something that, I guess it wasn't super difficult, but I just did not really go far on the tracks. I think I had like 2 tokens out on 2 different tracks. Maximum or something like that. So you're going to score points for how far along you are on the elements tracks, and then you're of course going to score points for your various elements that you have in your airship. And if you completed a whole column in your airship by covering up the available spots with storage, then you will also gain the points for each column that you have completed that has that's filled with storage tiles. And then on top of that, you don't need to have elements, it's just the storage that you're looking at. So you're going to do that at the end of each round. At the end of the game, then you're also going to score points for your character cards and completed tree cards that you have pairs of, and you'll get extra points if you have the same color completed tree cards. So there's a lot going on in this game. So in this game, you're like, trying to pay attention to which which elements are in which locations that you might want to collect, because again, you can't have similar types next to each other. So, you know, sometimes you might not even see the elements that you want. So you might need to readjust your strategy and try to do something else in the meantime until those elements come up. So anytime something is taken from the board, it will immediately be replenished after that person has completed their turn. So yeah, so that's how things get replenished on the board. So yeah, it's a fun game with like more than meets the eye. I feel like in this game there's definitely more than meets the eye when it comes to this worker placement game. So yeah, and you'll see that when you actually play it. When you play it, you'll realize like how much like readjusting you might have to do as you're continuing along in the game. So to me, that makes the game fun. So I think it's fun for that reason, that you do have like these little puzzles going on in your own airship, as well as trying to just get the things you need. So yeah. And these like little add-ons to the workers, those are just totally not necessary, but apparently people really like them. So, you know, people really like these like added components that you can add to your workers, like on their arms and stuff like that. But yeah, otherwise, really nice game. So if you like worker placement games, maybe something worth checking out. Is currently on Kickstarter. And yeah, and again, this is a pre-production copy, so of course, everything is subject to change, and it'll probably be much nicer, and I'm sure it will be much nicer given Dronda Games' reputation and the final product. So yeah, but again, pre-production copy, but even then you can see how amazing these meeples are and all of these tokens. The screen printing on these is just really, really nice. Yeah, so that was Mutagen, and I believe it's on Kickstarter for quite some time. Like I think it's on Kickstarter for at least a couple more weeks, so you can go check it out, and I'll have a link below. So yeah, so that was Mutagen. So let's move on. Let's talk about Tend. Tend is a 2025 game for 1 to 6 players designed by Max Anderson, Zach Dixon, Austin Harrison, and Toby Sarnell, and is published by Ivy Games, Ivy Studio. And this is hitting Kickstarter later this month. So I was sent a preview copy, and I will be creating a sponsored overview video for this game. However, this segment, of course, is not sponsored. So I played a 5-player game of this a couple nights ago and really enjoyed it. So this is a flip and write game. And there are dice as well, but you're actually not going to be rolling that many dice. There's the only dice that you might end up rolling are the 2 dice that each player have personally, that are personal to them, and you would roll these if you're going fishing. Otherwise, there's all the dice that are in this game, and there are quite a number of dice. You are actually not rolling them. They're actually going to be placed on your player sheets, and I'll explain all of that when we get to it. So this game is played over 12 rounds, and the basic actions are pretty easy to understand. Now, this is a very combo-tastic flip and write game. I say flip and write, but really I would say more like select and write. I don't know, like action and write, because, and I'll explain why I say that. But anyway, so yeah, so each person is going to have one of these sheets, which will have your cargo manifest on it. And each person's scoring might be a little bit different for how you will score the various sections at the end of the game. And this is kind of the round tracker, and you're also going to be indicating here which actions you're doing in each round, and there will be a scoring at the ends of rounds 5 and at the ends of rounds 9. So we had to draw on the lines ourselves to indicate when scoring would happen, because as you can see, it doesn't match up with the colors, because since printing these sheets, they decided to change when those scorings would happen. And as you can see, I scored a total of 57 points in this game, and I actually came in second, you know, but this was all of our first times playing this game, and I can't say for certain that, you know, we are experts in this game or that we did the best job that we could have done. And here is another board sheet that every player will have. And you're going to be marking off lots of things on this sheet, and you know, I'll talk about the different areas, and then each person is going to have a scratch off sheet. So yeah, so if you're someone who doesn't like components in board games that are disposable and that you cannot reuse again, these definitely cannot be reused again. Like the sheets, of course, you can laminate so that you'll always have certain sheets available to you, but if you run out of these scratch cards, then you're out of luck, I guess. I did read on their Instagram, or maybe it was a YouTube video that they posted, a comment in the section that said that they will have an app that will replace these if you ever run out of these. I mean, I can just say from looking at this preview copy that the game does include a lot, but if this is a game that you're going to be playing over and over again, you might end up running out eventually. But I'll just show you how thick the stack is of these scratch-offs that we were given. So yeah, if you remember my unboxing video, like, I remember I held these up and I was like, oh, they all look the same. I don't know what these are, blah, blah, blah. Well, now I know. And now I know why they all look the same, because they're scratch-off sheets. But this is how thick the stack is, minus the 5 that we already used. So there are a whole bunch of these, but if this is a game you really love, then, and depending on how big of a player count you play at, then you might end up going through all of these. But yeah, but you know, for someone like me, I don't know if I'd end up going through all of them, but it does also kind of like upset me that, you know, it has these like disposable components that like eventually you could run out. But again, they said that they would have an app or something to fix that. So anyway, so how does this game play? So you know, in the rule book, it states that there's going to be like a player mat on which you'll place the cards. I do not have a player mat, but I'll show you what kinds of, oh my God, I just dumped them all out. Held the bag at the wrong end. Oops. Okay. So there's going to be different cards that are laid out, and I'll have a picture up here to show you guys because that will make it easier for me to explain. But you're going to have cards that will be your action cards that you can use in that round, and you will also have the scoring cards, the goals that you are trying to meet for the first scoring, second scoring, and third scoring before you do end of game scoring. So in the first round, you're going to have 5 of these starter actions laid out in front of you. And on your turn, simultaneously, everyone is going to do one of the actions that is laid out on an action card. And then you will, you know, indicate on your sheet which action you're doing. And then simultaneously, again, you'll do your second action. So for example, in my game, the first action I did was a chop action. And then my second action was a tend action. So what is a chop action? If you're doing a chop action, you're basically going to choose one of these squares in the top section, starting in the top row, and scratch it off. That is a chop action, and then you'll see what you get underneath. So when you chop, these are the things you might uncover. You might uncover wood, you might uncover a rock, it looks like, and a stump or something like that. And some of them have a purple background. So when you chop, in this game, when you gain resources, there's nowhere to store those resources. You need to spend them immediately. Like, you need to use them immediately. So when you do a chop action, and if there was a purple background, then you also get to collect an item or chop again. Oh, damn it, I didn't realize you could chop again. Now I wish I had chopped again. Huh. Okay, well anyway, instead I just basically collected an item. So anytime there's a purple background, you can do another chop action, or you can collect one of these items, which you can see that I did that anytime I got a purple background. So yeah, well now I'm really wishing I'd done another chop action, because that would have benefited me, because then I would have unlocked something else and scored even more points, and then I could have potentially won this game. Damn it, damn it, damn it. Now I know that. I should have read that more carefully. Oh my God, I totally could have won. Instead I came in second place. Oh well. So, you know, there's a variety of places on this sheet where you can use resources and do different things. It's a lot to go through, so I'm not going to go through all of them. But you also have on your cargo manifest sheet like different like badges that you can try to earn by crossing off the resources, and these badges will give you end of game points, and they'll also be able to give you like this advanced thing which you can then add to your cargo manifest. So when you look at this thing, that will tell you the shape of the thing that you can draw in your cargo manifest. So you're going to be drawing these different shapes into your cargo manifest when you either grow, like when you harvest those things, or grow those things if they're animals, like gain the thing from the animal, like for example, wool or something like that. So that's a very combo-tastic game. Like that's the best way to describe it. Super duper combo-tastic, like a lot of chaining. Like you really have to keep track of the things you're doing, because it's very easy to lose track and, you know, realize and forget that you have something that you can still do. So by gaining a badge, for example, that would allow you to then gain this shape, which you could then draw into your cargo manifest. but that shape is also has a value of 3 coins. So instead, if you wanted to, you could use the 3 coins instead of drawing that shape into your cargo manifest. However, the cargo manifest is the way in which you're going to gain the most points. So ignore those black smudges because those were mistakes. But this game comes with pens, markers that each person will have, and on the end of each marker there is a stamp. So you can just stamp the different shapes into your cargo manifest, or alternatively you could just draw them in instead if you wanted to, because on the other end of the marker there is just a tip. So it's up to you whether you want to stamp or just draw in yourself. I use the stamps, as you can see, to stamp in my different shapes. Now when you're putting things into the cargo manifest, you can't have similar things next to each other, orthogonally adjacent to each other. You cannot do that. So you just have to start putting them in different sections. But of course you want to strategically put things in, because each section will show you at the bottom like how, you know, that symbol won't score anything in this section and it won't score anything in this section, but that symbol will score 2 points per square in that section. So you will strategically, depending on your own player sheet, decide where you are placing things into your cargo manifest. And you're also going to be deciding that based on the goal cards that you have laid out for your game. So again, there are 3 goal cards which you will be scoring at the ends of season 1, season 2, and season 3. So here are some examples of season 1 cards. So let me see if I can find one. So here's one. Gain 3 points for each good in your cargo manifest of size 1. So if you had goods in your cargo manifest of size 1, you would gain 3 points for each of those at the end of the season. This is the one that we had in our game, gain 6 points for each energy bar collected. So unfortunately, I did not collect any energy bars until later on in the game, but these are the energy bars that you can collect. And you need to get 3 coins in order to collect them. And once you've collected it, you place a circle around it. And then that gives you 2 uses. So once you use it once, you put 1 slash through it. And when you use it again, you put another slash through it. So the energy bars are really useful because they will give you a +1 action level per use. So for example, when you're chopping, and I know this explanation is all over the place, but that's like what a combo-tastic game is. Like, I don't know really how else to explain it. But yeah, so like for example, if you are chopping, up here is where you can only chop with level 1 chop actions. But if you have a level 2 chop action, then you can start chopping in this area. And then the same with mining, level 1 mining and level 2 mining. And when you're chopping or mining, you have to start at the very top, and then you can chop or mine adjacent to a square that you had previously chopped or mined. And that's how you can start to enter down here. But again, you cannot enter the second half of each of these sections until you have level 2 actions available to you. So one easy way to get those level 2 actions is by getting an energy bar, which will add a +1 to your action for that use of the energy bar, because otherwise it's kind of hard to upgrade your actions. So how you upgrade your actions otherwise is by completing these equipment upgrades. And in order to complete these various equipment upgrades, you need to collect various things, and you need to do all of them. So basically, like, you can't upgrade your tool until you have circled all of these items, and then you would have an upgraded tool. So depending on which actions you're doing in the game, it really feels like you're focusing in on certain things. So in my game, I went very chop heavy and wood heavy. So for me, I focused mostly on that and on growing in my garden. So I did not place any animals in my garden. I focused mostly on growing. So I guess we can talk about growing. So if the action that is available, so again, there's going to be 5 action cards per round available, and each person is going to decide simultaneously which action they want to do and then complete that action in its entirety. And again, very combo-tastic game. Then each person will decide simultaneously which second action they want to do, and again, complete that action in its entirety. So the tend action, when you tend, that allows you to either, so you see your field here, tending allows you to either do one of the following. You can either plant a crop, you can water a crop in adjacent crops, or you can plow 4 times. So these squiggly fields are blocks that have been plowed. So you cannot plant something until something has been plowed. After something has been plowed and you do a tend action again, that's when you can plant. So the things that I focused on planting were pumpkins, because those were big items. And for our second scoring, you would have scored extra points for each item in your garden that was a size 4. So these dice were size 4 dice. So I would plant pumpkins. Now, when you plant something, you're going to place it with this facing up. So now you know it's a level 1 pumpkin. And you literally are placing these dice onto your sheets. So your dice have to stay basically stationary on the table, in front of you, and you're not going to really be picking up the sheet or moving it around, because you're going to be putting dice onto these sheets, and you're going to be like switching their sides every time you grow or water and so on. So you're going to do that. So then at the end of a round, oh yeah, I guess I should go through how each round works first. So setup, basically, there's also these like neighbor cards, which I'll talk about in a minute, but let me just go through the basic round structure, and then I can talk about each round in detail. So the basic round structure is neighbor phase, but you're not going to do it in the first round, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And then you have a scoring phase after rounds 5, 9, and 12. Then you have the setup phase where you're preparing for the next round. Then you have the growth phase, where if you have anything in your garden, you're going to grow it and turn it to the next side. So a level 1 pumpkin, for example, would become a level 2 pumpkin. Boom. And then a level 2 pumpkin will turn into this, which means you get to harvest it and remove it. Some dice will show an arrow, meaning that instead of removing the die completely, you're just going to turn it back to a level 1, because some things are not actually going to be gone once you've harvested them. Like, for example, wool. So if you have a sheep, it's just going to turn back into a sheep, of course, because it's still a sheep, and you just get to start growing its wool again. So that's what the growth phase is. And then you have the task phase, which is where you're taking your actions. So after the players have taken their actions and that round is over, then you're going to start going through this round structure again. Now, each person next to them is going to have a neighbor card on each side. A neighbor card is something that you are asking for. So at the beginning of the game, you're going to be dealt 4 of these, and you're going to decide which 2 you want to place, 1 on each side. And if your neighbor gives you this item because they acquired that item, it's beneficial for them, because they'll get to go up a certain social reward track, which gives them rewards, and you basically get the thing, and you get to decide what you want to do with the thing. So for example, let's suppose I had this on one side and this on one side. So my neighbor on this side, if they ever had this item and they didn't need it, they could instead give it to me. And as a result, they would get to have 1 neighbor bonus. So on their social reward track, they would get to mark off the first box. So that's how that works. And on the other side, it's basically giving them a choice. And the bigger, the better the item, the more neighbor bonus award they can get. So for example, these are harder to acquire items, I guess, so it would give a neighbor bonus of 2. So when you are in the first phase of a round, you're going to see if your neighbor card was completed, in which case you, like for example, meaning your neighbor gave you something, then you have to draw a new card to put on that side. So that's what that phase indicates. Then again, you have your scoring phases after rounds 5, 9, and 12. So for the objectives for those rounds, and I already showed you an example of one, but let me just show you an example of a season 2 objective, for example. So I'll try to find the one that I had. So mine was the one for size 4. Yeah, so this is the one that we had. It said gain 5 points for each good in your cargo manifest of size 4 plus. So really great one to have, because I think I gained 15 points for that. Yes. So that was the one that we had in that round. So again, these happen at the ends of seasons. So at the ends of rounds 5, 9, and 12. So that's the next phase. And then you go to growth phase. So again, if you have any dice in your garden, you're going to turn your dice to the next side. And if that side happens to be a harvest side, then you will get to do the harvest action then as well. And then you go back to the task phase. So the task cards are going to replenish during each round. So you're going to have new cards that come up. And in addition to that, you're always going to see which two cards, there's going to be certain cards that have like multiple actions to choose from. Like for example, this one. And you're always going to see what's coming up for two of the cards. So for some of the cards, you will always have knowledge of what's coming, which can help you to plan a little bit better for the next round. So for example, you might see, oh, in the next round, there's definitely going to be a tend. So maybe I want to do something in this round so that I can do like a watering action in the next round or something like that. So it's beneficial because you do get to see two of the cards that will be coming up in the next action phase. And again, when you're taking actions, you're always going to write the letter of the action that you are taking. So as you can see, mine focused really heavily on chopping and tending. I didn't even mine a single time. At one point I gained money, coins, and then there was one time where I did a fishing, but everything else was just tending and chopping, tending and chopping. Whereas some of the other players who played, you can see that they had a bigger variety of actions. So the winner who won the game, he had more variety in the actions that he took, and he ended the game with 67 points. But again, I think I could have won if I had known that by doing this, I could have done another top action, because I just needed one more freaking thing that would have allowed me to get my Woods Explorer. And if I had gotten my Woods Explorer, I could have doubled the value of my badge. Okay, maybe I would have just scored 5 more points then. Yeah. No, okay, then I still wouldn't have won, but I would have been closer. Okay, I wouldn't have won, but I still would have come in second place, so never mind. But yeah, it's just interesting to see the other players' sheets. So for example, like, yeah, like I didn't score anything in the first round for the round, end of round 5 scoring. So let's just talk about end of game scoring. So at the end of the game, after you've done the 12th end of round scoring, which would have been another gold card, then at the end of the game, you're going to score for everything that you have in your cargo manifest. And what else are you scoring at the end of the game? Let's see. Yes, neighbor bonuses. So yeah, you'll compare the progress of your left neighbor rewards track with your left neighbor. And for every box you have filled that they do not, you score 3 points. So this is where it pays to be generous to your neighbors. I did not give my neighbors anything. So yeah, so that probably, you know, was not good because I didn't gain any points for that. And you're going to do the same with your right neighbor. And then you score for badges. So I got the wood badge because I went very chop heavy. And then you add it all together, and then whoever wins, has the most points wins. Yeah. So yeah, so that is Tend kind of in a nutshell, I guess. But again, it's a very combo-tastic game. And of course, you're going to need to go through the rule book in order to like really understand how things play off of each other. But there are a lot of areas on this sheet. And of course, as you can see, some of them I didn't even like touch. Like I didn't even touch these upgrades, tool upgrades. I didn't even touch like my animals. Like I didn't have a single animal because I didn't complete any fences. So before you can put down any animals, you need to build fences. And in order to build fences, you need to collect a certain something, and I don't remember what that was. Fishing I did just once. I guess I can explain how fishing works. So you will start with a pond to go fishing in, and that's when you roll the 2 dice and you see what comes up, and then you will be able to mark that item into your manifest by finding the matching item and drawing that shape, or you can get the value of it instead and use that money on something else. So that's one of the cool things about this game, is that when you have harvested something or grown something or caught something, you can of course add the thing to your manifest, which is the biggest way you're going to score points in this game. So of course you want to add things to your manifest, but if you really need the money, you can just take the value of that thing instead. So that is pretty cool. Like it's a very you know, it's a very multi-use game. Like there's multiple uses for different things in this game. But again, as soon as you collect something, you have to use it because there is no storage. So I guess your storage is your cargo manifest, where you can add things once you've earned them or grown them or whatever. Yeah. But there are lots of different badges. Like, so for example, I only completed one badge. And again, the game was played over 12 rounds, 12, you know, so you have a total of 24 actions that you're doing. I personally don't think that's enough to complete, like, I don't know, 3 badges. Maybe if you're smart and you've really figured this game out, maybe you can complete 2 badges. Who knows? I didn't do a single mine action, actually. So you can see from my scratch off sheet that I didn't even do a single mine action. So yeah, so again, I focused very heavily on wood and chopping, but I would really love to play this again because it was a lot of fun. And I really want to explore the different areas of these sheets and see what other synergies like I can create and how I can really maximize my efficiency with my actions. So this is a game I definitely want to play again and again in order to see if I can maximize and become more efficient in my farming on this alien farm. Yeah, so super fun game. So if you enjoy roll-in rights, flip-in rights, which are very, very, very combo-tastic, then I really think you will love this game a lot. And it's, you know, pretty innovative with the fact that you are placing these dice onto your farm and actually growing things. Like, there are a lot of different dice in this game with the different kinds of things that you will be growing and harvesting. So yeah, so very, very cool. So again, the only thing that you are, or the only dice that you are actually rolling are the fishing dice when you go fishing. And also you can unlock the ability to go fishing in greater areas. So each person at the beginning of the game starts with a lake fishing card and some other cards which you can unlock. I did not manage to unlock them, but I'll just show you examples. So for example, here's a grotto fishing. So you might be able to unlock your grotto fishing and go fishing in there for higher value items, fish and things. Here's one for lake fishing. And here is one for river fishing. So everyone has the pond fishing on their sheet, but these are the 3 additional types of fishing that you might be able to unlock. And then same with this geode. So you might be able to go mining here instead of on your sheet. And this seems like, you know, it'll get you cooler, different things than you might be able to acquire on your scratch off sheet. I am curious. I'm gonna like maybe sit down later and like just start scratching off random things on other people's sheets and see if the things underneath the sheets, underneath the scratching things are different. I'm assuming they have to be, because otherwise you would learn what's where and just basically be able to scratch off what you need each time. So I'm assuming that different sheets have different things underneath the scratching off layer. That's my guess. Unfortunately, I did not shuffle these before we played, and I wish I had, so that each one could have been different, but maybe I'll play a solo one and take one from the bottom of the stack instead of the top and see if it's different. Yeah, so I hope that that was a somewhat good explanation of 10, so you can get an idea of what this game is like. The rulebook, of course, will go into detail in all of the different areas of your player sheets and exactly how they work and stuff, but really all you need to know is that it is a really fun flip and write game. But again, you're not really doing the flipping. The flipping just kind of happens at the start of each round and shows you which actions are available for you to take. And again, the only rolling is that it's involved is for the dice if you go fishing or mining in the geode. Otherwise, very combo-tastic with a cool like mechanism of placing dice onto your sheet and upgrading those dice as the animals or plants grow. But yeah, just a lot of fun, yeah, and just cool graphics, really cool graphics. I really like the whole theme of it, like aliens going fishing. I really like the artwork on this box as well. And oh yeah, and I forgot to mention, one of the components in this game are these metal like coin things, which is what you use to scratch off your scratch off sheets. So each player gets one of these metal things to use to scratch off their sheets. Now this game actually did come with a really pretty one as well. It came with this like Ivy Studio like metal coin thing as well, which is really, really pretty. I don't know what the use is for this, but I just thought it was really, really pretty. And I wonder if I think it would just be a really cool like upgrade. Like instead of these plain silver ones, if each player got a different one that matched one of these badges to use to scratch off their sheets. Because look at how pretty these are. They're just so freaking pretty. So if each player got a different one of these, that would be just so super cool. So yeah, maybe they gave this as like, I don't know. Maybe the winner gets this, who knows? So yeah, so anyway, so that was 10. So keep an eye out for that. Its Kickstarter is launching at the end of this month, and I will be doing an overview video for it as well. So yeah, so let's move on. So let's talk about Castle Combo. This is a 2024 game for 2 to 5 players, designed by Gregory Gerard and Mathieu Roussel, and the art is done by Stéphane Escapa, and it's published by Ketchup Games. And I purchased this at Spiel Essen because I absolutely loved Far Away from the same publisher, which was like probably my favorite purchase from last year's Essen, and I played it so many times. It was definitely my most played game since last year's Essen. So yeah, so I definitely wanted Castle Combo, and it did not disappoint. So I played, I believe it was a 5-player game of this, if I remember correctly. I think it was the maximum player count. So in this game, you're going to have some castle cards, and they're the ones with the gray background. So you're going to have like a row of these to draft from. And I'm assuming that, I wonder if the number of cards available depends on the player count. I cannot remember. I don't think it does. So yeah, it looks like you're just going to reveal 3 cards, and then same with the village deck. And I think that that's the case regardless of player count, which is interesting. I'm trying to remember. Was it only 3 cards that we always had revealed? Maybe it was. I can't remember now. But anyway, here are the village cards. So the village cards have like the beige kind of background. So the castle deck, of course, contains like the nobles and like the more, you know, wealthier people, whereas the village deck contains like the peasants and other kinds of people. And it's really cool because it actually contains, it has the name of each person on the side here. So like this person is the judge, and the artwork is just so cool. So like here, for example, you have the general. So like this person is like for the military and so on. Here you have a professor. So yeah, so the castle deck has like the more educated, wealthier people, whereas this deck, the village deck, has the people who are not as wealthy, like the sculptor here. The artwork is just so freaking cool. Or the farmer. So yeah, just really, really cool artwork. So you're going to have a row of village cards face up and a row of castle cards face up. And you're going to place the pawn next to, I believe you start it next to the village people. Oh, it's actually called a messenger pawn. So you're going to place the messenger pawn besides the revealed village cards. Yep. And each person starts the game with 2 keys and 15 gold. So yeah, there are all of these chunky keys, which are really nice. All the components in this game are chunky, which I really like, and all the money. So you're going to start with money and keys in hand. So on your turn, you can spend a key optionally. You would spend a key in order to move the pawn from one row to the other row, because wherever the pawn is where you can collect a card from on your turn. So then you have to buy a card, which is mandatory. And then you apply the card's ability, which is also mandatory. And then you move the messenger pawn and fill the display for both locations, mandatory. So that's what you're going to be doing on your turn. So you can spend a key in order to move the messenger to the other location. So let's suppose the messenger is on the villager card row, but you really want a castle card. So you can spend a key in order to move him before then collecting a card. You can also spend a key in order to discard all 3 cards at the location where the messenger is and reveal 3 new cards. So if you don't like any of the cards, you can spend a key in order to do that. Then you must spend money in order to buy a card. So you must take one of the 3 face-up cards in the location where the messenger is and pay the cost in gold as shown in the top left corner of the card. So for example, this one would cost 3 gold in order for you to take. Then you're going to place it somewhere in your tableau. So you are going to be building a 3x3 tableau. So you will have 9 cards at the end of the game. Yep. So when you're starting out, basically you'll place 1 card, but eventually once you have either a row or a column of 3 cards, then your tableau is fixed. At that point, you know what the parameters of your tableau are. But as you're starting out, you have a bit more flexibility of where you're placing your cards. Let me see if you have to actually place adjacent to. Let's see. Oh, here are the placement rules. So you immediately place the card you took in your tableau. So you must comply with 2 rules. Each card after the first must be placed adjacent orthogonally to at least 1 other card in your tableau. At the end of the game, your tableau must be a grid of 3x3 cards. You can never add a 4th card to a column or a row. Yes, of course. Then you apply the card's ability. So each card has an ability and you're immediately going to apply it. So for example, after playing this card, you would immediately, what does that say? You would get 2 coins per shields that you have of those type in your tableau. Or this one, let's see. Is it points or yeah, I can't remember. Try to find, oh, here, like for example, if you played this one and your center row was filled, you would immediately gain 5. So you're going to be immediately, oh no, sorry, I think those are end of game. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong thing. Those are not the abilities. The abilities are the ones that are in the center. Yeah, those are scoring. Those are points that you get at the end of the game. So the ability that you're applying is the thing that's in the center. So for example, you would immediately gain 3 coins per each orange shield you have after placing this one, and you would of course count this one as well. Sorry. So yeah, I was looking at the wrong thing. So that's why it was not making sense. The bottom thing are points. So what you're seeing at the bottom are points that you will get at the end of the game. So you'll immediately apply the card's ability, and then you move the messenger pawn if you have to, based on the card that you took. So if a messenger icon is printed on the banner of the character that has been bought, then you move the messenger pawn. So for example, here, if you bought this card, then you would have to move the messenger pawn. But not all cards have a symbol like that, indicating that the messenger pawn gets moved. And then you would reveal more cards to complete the display. So you're going to do this over and over again until everyone has completed their 9 card tableau, and then you'll go to scoring. So there are some cards that have purse scoring on them. So if you have coins in your supply, you can now add them to any purses that you did not already fill up. So for example, let me find one. I had a purse scoring card. I wasn't a huge fan of them, but so like this one looks like a purse scoring card. So this one can hold coins. So at the end of the game, if you have coins in your supply, you can add them to your purse cards. And then this one would score 2 points per every coin in this bag. And this one can hold a maximum of 5 coins. This one would score 2 points per coins, but it can hold a maximum of 9 coins. And some of them, when you place them, some of the cards have abilities for you to add coins immediately into a purse if you have it. So for example, this card, if you had placed this innkeeper into your tableau, you would get to put 2 coins on each purse card, and your opponents would also gain 2 coins. So that one, if you placed it into your tableau, you would have immediately been able to add coins to the purse on every purse card that you had. So yeah. So you'll be able to add coins to your purses, and then you're going to use the score pad to count the score for each card. And the score pad shows you that you're going to go in the order of the cards indicated over here. So you're going to look first at this card, then this card, then this card, and each person is going to write their score for those cards in that order. And then each key you have left over is worth 1 point. And then gold that is not stored on purses is worth no points. So if you are getting a lot of gold throughout the game, you definitely want to collect cards that are purse cards that you can add gold to. However, gold is kept because it is used to break any ties that might occur. So whoever has the highest score at the end of the game will win. And of course, if there's a tie, then you're going to look at gold that's left over that's not in the purses. So yeah, so super fun game because there are just so many different cards with different kinds of suits and different kinds of scoring abilities and different kinds of like active like player abilities when you actually get the card. So yeah, just a really, really fun artwork. So if you like tableau building games with, just cool scoring like that, with just like where you are basically creating what you're scoring for, then you will definitely love this game. Like I absolutely really enjoy this game. It is a really fun game and I highly recommend it. Like if you enjoyed Far Away, you will definitely love this game as well. So yeah, so definitely a keeper in the collection. In my game, I went really heavy on the orange shields. But again, there are different kinds of shields. Oh, and the player aid actually tells you. So there's like a player aid here, and it tells you the different kinds of icons that are available. So blues are nobility. It looks like there's like a, I don't know. Well, anyway, here you can see like all the different kinds of things that you might come across. And this guide also tells you like which different symbols and things mean that you'll see on the different scoring and abilities of the different cards. So yeah, so super, super cool. Highly recommend this game. So yeah, so definitely check out Castle Combo, like really, really fun. So yeah, so let's move on. Let's talk about Rebel Princess. So Rebel Princess is a 2023 game for 3 to 6 players, designed by Daniela Byrne, Jose Gerardo Guerrero, and Kevin Palias and Tirso Virgos. And the art is done by Alfredo Caceres, I guess, and it's published by Zombie Paella and Bezier Games. So Zombie Paella is the original publisher of this game. So I purchased this at Essen, which is the edition from Zombie Paella, and I played this the other night and really enjoyed it, and then I ended up purchasing the deluxe edition. Yeah, so I'm actually going to end up giving this one away, but I will use this one to explain the game because it just has nice components in it, and I sleeved all the cards and stuff like that. So this is a trick-taking game. So, you know, you want to kind of be good at trick-taking games or enjoy them in order to play this game. There are 4 different suits in this game. You have the princes, who are not invited to the party, and I'll explain what that means, but I'm just tilting them so that you can see them. You have pets, which are like the animals, and each suit has cards numbered 1 through 12. You have the queens, and you have one more thing, the fairies. So again, each suit has cards numbered 1 through 12. There is one special card, which is the frog card, which is the number 8 card in the animal suit, which is bad, and that's worth 5 proposals, and I'll explain what that means. So this game is played over 5 rounds. And in each round, you are going to be playing cards and trying to avoid winning the trick. So there's a total of 5 rounds, and when so you can never lead with the princess suit unless someone already played it because they didn't have a card that could follow suit. So once the princes enter the party, then in that round you can lead with the suit, but otherwise you cannot lead with the princes. So the princes are bad. So you want to avoid winning hands, tricks that have princes in them, because at the end of the game, at the end of the round, each prince is going to count as 1 and 1 proposal, and whoever has the most proposals at the end of the game will lose. Like, you want to try to get the least proposals. In each frog, well, there's only 1 frog, that counts as 5 proposals. So you want to avoid winning the trick that has the frog in it as well. But before we do that, at the beginning of the game, you're going to be given a princess power. So there are a variety of princesses in the game, and they each have a special ability. So mine was the Little Mermaid, for example. So this one says Hypnotic Song. Decide which suit the player who leads has to play. And if you use your power during a round, then you just tap your princess to show that it's been used and cannot be used again in that round. So there are a variety of princesses. I believe there's 12 in total. At least in this deluxe edition, there's 12. So different kinds of powers, and some people use their powers, some people didn't. And additionally, you're going to have these cards which will dictate what happens at the beginning of the round and any special rule that might exist for that round. So for example, here's one, Pet's Revenge. Pet cards also score 1 proposal, and the frog 6. So like this round, you would definitely not want to win any tricks that have pets in them. This one, Late for a Very Important Date. The last 3 cards in a player's hand are kept and scored as wand tricks. So you would definitely want to remove any bad cards from your hand. And it also indicates at the beginning of the round which way you are going to take 2 cards from your hand and give them to the player next to you. So it tells you in which direction you're going to do that. So each of these cards will tell you how many cards, if any, you need to give to the person next to you, and it'll indicate the direction, and then it tells you if there is a special rule for that round. So there are, in the deluxe edition, 26 of these, 1 for each letter of the alphabet. In the standard one, there's not as quite as many. I think it goes up to letter T in the standard edition, but in the deluxe edition, it goes all the way up to letter Z. So yeah, so there's 26 of them. So you're going to have one of these displayed for the start of the round. You'll be flipping them over when each new round begins. And again, each person is going to have a princess power that they could use. So again, you must follow suit if you can. And like any trick-taking game, the highest number in the suit wins the trick, unless there's a special rule that dictates otherwise. And again, princes are not invited to the party, but if someone had to play a prince because they didn't have the suit matching the lead suit, then princes can be played starting in order to start a trick beginning with once that's happened in that round. So you can only do it in that round once someone has played a prince card. Yeah, so basically you want to avoid winning tricks that have the princes in them and avoid winning tricks with the frog in them because that counts as proposals as well. And then whoever has the least number at the end of proposals will win the game. In the deluxe edition, I believe there is also a special rule that you can play with, which in the standard edition was not in the rule book, but in the deluxe edition it states Rebel of the Ball. If a player wins all of the princes and the frog, they are declared the Rebel of the Ball and receive only -10 proposals for that round, ignoring the standard proposals gained from the princes and frogs. So if you had won all of the proposals, you would have typically had 17, but instead this one is saying 10. So if you won all of the tricks, you won't lose as many points or gain as many points as you would have otherwise. And again, the winner is the person who scored the least amount of proposals. So when all 5 rounds have been played, the party is over. It's time to see which princess will get married and who will rebel. The player with the fewest proposals is the winner and will rebel against the unwanted marriages. So yeah, so really fun trick-taking game, which is why I felt like I had to go and get the deluxe version, because the deluxe version contains the princess powers in these cool cardboard tiles, where in the standard version they're just cards, and in the deluxe version these cards, which indicate the rule for the round, are larger. They're tarot sized, which again in the regular size the standard game, they're just regular size cards. Unfortunately, I did need to discard the insert because the insert does not hold sleeved cards, so you kind of have to struggle to fit in all of the cards into the box in the deluxe edition. But I absolutely love the artwork. The artwork is just so appealing to me, so I just had to get the deluxe edition of this game. If I had known how much I would love this, I just wouldn't have probably purchased the edition that I did at Essen, but now I can do a giveaway for that edition if anyone wants to win it. So yeah, so that is Rebel Princess. So yeah, so highly recommend it if you like trick-taking games. If you're not a fan of trick-taking games, I put the cards in the lid instead, in the top instead of the bottom, my bad. Yeah, so if you're a fan of trick-taking games, then you will definitely love this. If you are not a fan of trick-taking games, then I don't know. So, but yeah, highly recommend if you like trick-taking games. So yeah, so that was a Rebel Princess. So let's move on. All right, given the time, I'm not going to discuss any more games in this video. So again, if there are any games which I mentioned in the intro that you would like me to discuss, I will talk about them in next week's video. I definitely do want to talk about some of them, which I did not get a chance to talking about today. So let's just quickly go to games that I am backing. Oh, and one of the games I forgot to talk about is one of the games that I covered for its Kickstarter, so I'll definitely have to talk about that in the next video, but the Kickstarter will still be going on, and that is for Cat Sudoku. So really cute cat Sudoku card game, which I absolutely really enjoyed, and it's got really adorable artwork in it, including my cat Toffee. So my cat is in this game, so if you want a game with my cat in it, you should check out Cat Sudoku. So that is one of the games I am backing. I'm backing it at just $1, hopefully, which will give me Pledge Manager access, so I hope that I can get a production copy of this game for having covered it for its Kickstarter. So that is going on until November 7th. I'm also backing Ultimate Voyage and Mutagen at their Pledge Manager levels, in order to get my production copies for covering those games. And then the games that I'm paying for, which I'm not getting review copies of, are Cat Pack's Whiskers in the Night. So I showed you guys Cat Packs during my Spiel Essen haul video, which is a game that I had backed on Kickstarter for Spiel Essen pickup. And they have a Halloween edition expansion. So of course I need it because I'm a huge Halloween fan and a huge fan of cats. So that was just a no-brainer, even though I haven't played my Cat Packs game yet. But I'm hoping that that will change soon and that I will get to play it very soon. So I'm backing it at the returning all new stuff level. So that way I can get the expansion, plus the playmat, plus whatever else is new. So yeah, everything that's new I will be getting. Yeah, and then I'm also backing this Christmas game called Wicked Christmas: Turn Holiday Madness into a Battle of Wits. Just because it looks super cool. I just absolutely love the artwork, and I just think it would be nice to have another Christmas game in my collection. So I'm backing that as well. So that ends on October 31st, the Wicked Christmas game, and the Cat Packs ends on November 17th. Ultimate Voyage ends on November 13th, Mutagen ends on November 13th, and Cat Sudoku ends on November 7th, which happens to be my first cat's ever birthday, Kitty, who went missing when I was in high school, and it was just so really traumatizing. Like, he was my first cat. He was an indoor-outdoor cat, and then he just never came home. And I cried for months and months, and yeah, I still think about him. So yeah, his name was Kitty, and November 7th was his birthday. But anyway. So moving on to games that I have received. There is a lot of stuff to show you, so I am going to save some of it for next week because I'm running out of time here, and I just need to get out while the sun is still out and feed the stray cats when I can. So I'm just going to show you just a couple right now, and then the rest I will save for next week. But I'll tell you the names of everything that I've received since the last time I shot a video. So I've received my all-in pledge, Light pledge rather, of Unconscious Mind. I received my deluxe edition of Kelp. I received my Celia, the strategic mushroom game. I received my production copy of Favor, the Gods of Athera. I received a review copy of Shallow Sea. So I guess I'll just show you Shallow Sea for right now. This is a game, well, I'll just show you the box. I'll just show you the components when I cover it in the next video because hopefully I'll have it played by then. But this is a game that I will be covering for its Kickstarter from this, and this is the same publisher, Bad Comet, as Life of the Amazonia, and then that Serengeti game, and more recently a game that I really enjoy, which is where is it? I'm trying to remember the name of it. I actually really like it. It's that oh my god, what is the name? Oh, it's right here in front of me. Wondrous Creatures. Yeah, really loved their last game, which was Wondrous Creatures. So I'll be covering this for its Kickstarter, so I'll show you all of the components then. And I guess I'll show you the other games in the next video as well. I'll try to start shooting earlier so that I don't run out of time, just because I feel like it's getting darker and I just need to get out soon. So yeah, so I'll show you other stuff next week. So yeah, so I guess we can just skip over this section. So we still have a lot of stuff to get through, so I still gotta talk about FlagCon. So, you know, FlagCon is coming up really soon and it's going to be amazing. So yet again, if you haven't purchased your tickets yet, just definitely purchase your tickets. I'll leave a link below. I just really cannot wait for FlagCon. It's just a couple of weekends away now. So really excited about that. Cats update. Do you guys remember Ghost Cat? Well, he's finally been relocated to his new home, the barn where his family members were relocated to. So I'm very happy about that. So yeah, he spent quite a bit of time in the holding area, but now he's been finally relocated. So that's good news. I guess I don't have much other cat news. Just going to be cleaning out all of the shelters and adding in fresh straw before winter comes. So have a lot of work to do with that. Otherwise, everything is really all set, I think, for winter. Like, I'm really happy with the new feeding stations at the colonies. I feel like I've got them set up pretty well, so I just really need to focus on putting in fresh straw into all of their shelters and just getting everything cleaned up and ready in time for winter. So I will be focusing on that. So let's talk about book club. So let's do our fiction book club first. So I will admit that I didn't get a chance to read all 9 stories, which I said I would. So I'll just talk a little bit about the ones that I did read, I guess. So I got cut off because the phone rang, but anyway, let's just talk about book club. So I actually did not read all 9 stories like I said I would. I think I read 6 of them or something like that, but I'll admit I was not a huge fan of these stories. Like, the ones that I read, at least, not a huge fan. So I'm not gonna like recap what happened in them, but just in general, like I'm not a fan of stories where certain things are not explained and we're just supposed to be left knowing that this kind of like supernatural or whatever kind of thing happened, but are given no explanation as to why it happened. So that kind of bothers me. And I think, you know, that happened in a number of these stories, like TikTok. So we, you know, see this guy who's got this tick that's just growing and growing and growing inside of him, but there's no explanation of why. Like, that just kind of bothered me. I don't know how you felt about that, but it just kind of like irritated me that there really wasn't an explanation of why this was happening to him. I guess maybe we're just supposed to deduce why it's happening to him, like maybe because he abandoned his family and tried to like go find a new life for himself, and then he came back and he doesn't even know how to hunt or something. I don't know. Like, I really don't understand. The Ones Who Killed Us, I thought that was a good, interesting story that talks a lot about like, you know, what happened to the indigenous people and how badly they were treated, and maybe a little bit about getting justice served and so on. Yeah, good story. I guess. Snakes Are Born in the Dark. That one was a weird story. And again, I guess we learn in the end why the things that happened did happen. And it seems like the gods or spirits were punishing these two people, the white boyfriend who was just kind of an asshole, and then the indigenous girl who was dating that white guy. You know, but at the end, like they, you know, a couple of the characters, like the uncle or whatever, kept on asking Peter, the indigenous boy, whether he is the one who did that to his cousin and her boyfriend, and he said no. So you know, he responds that, oh, he disrespected our ancestors. So so I guess that's the explanation for what happened to them when they were kind of lost in the woods. Yeah. Before I go, I'm trying to remember what this one was about. I don't even remember now. Okay, I don't even remember what that one was about. So, I'm trying to remember. I don't know. Okay, so yeah, I guess I'll just talk about those because I don't remember what a lot of these ones were about now. But I didn't read all 9 in the end, so yeah, so a little bit ashamed about that, but these stories in general just are not what I thought they would be. So yeah, so let me know what you thought of this, you know, these stories that we were supposed to read for today. And I'm hoping that we can move on to another book, since I'm just not really enjoying these stories as much as I thought I would. They just are not what I thought they would be. So I propose we move on to another book for next week. So since it's October and Halloween is coming up, so I figured now would be a good time for us to move on to What Moves the Dead. So let's read this for next time. I mean, maybe not the whole book. I don't know how much you think you can read by next time, but since, you know, why don't we read, let's see how long a couple of the chapters are. Chapter 1 doesn't seem that bad, actually. Chapter 2. Let's read the first 4 chapters. It's not that long, it doesn't seem like. So let's read the first 4 chapters of What Moves the Dead for next time and discuss those. Just because, you know, Halloween is upon us and I want to move on to something that I hope will fit the month, and hopefully something that I will enjoy more than Never Whistle at Night, which is not what I thought it would be. So yeah, so for next week, let's read the first 4 chapters of What Moves the Dead. So yeah, so that was Fiction Book Club. But thank you so much, Sandra, and whoever else joined for this book. And I'm sorry if it was not as enjoyable as you also hoped it would be. Hopefully the next book will be better, and hopefully there won't be as many misses in the future. So yeah, so let's move on. Let's do our non-fiction book club discussion now. Now, it's been a long time since I've done one of these videos and talked about Palestine, so a lot has happened since then, and oh my god, the 6th declaration of war, has so much of it, you know, a lot of what's happening in this chapter is what we are seeing right now. So in this chapter, you see the establishment of Hamas and what that means for the Palestinians. I'm not going to focus too much on the establishment of Hamas, I guess. I mean, I highlighted so much in this chapter just because this really shows you what an open air prison Gaza had turned into, and all of the apartheid that you see in the West Bank and Gaza Strip, and everyone who claims that Israel is not an apartheid state. Everything you see in this chapter would tell you otherwise. Like, everything in this chapter will show you that they just do not have the same rights. They do not have the same access to resources as the Israelis do, as the Jewish people do. So yeah, like, this chapter just very clearly shows you that Israel is an apartheid state and that Palestinians are treated as less than human and are just not given the same basic rights. So yeah, so again, I won't go too much into the establishment of Hamas and all of that, but it did talk a little bit about, you know, the elections and all of that. It talked a lot about how many people were killed and, you know, all the things that Israel did, you know, since the Second Intifada, which erupted in September 2000. But, you know, you see again and again the disproportionate response that Israel has to any attacks on its population. So, you know, this chapter, I feel like, is something that everyone today needs to read, because it talks a lot about the rockets that Hamas would use to fire into Israel and how very few people are actually killed by those rockets and how they actually do not pose a deadly threat to the Israelis. But whenever those rockets were fired and then Israel disproportionately responds, it responds with weapons that are supposed to be used in actual war zones on open fields, not in densely populated areas. So this chapter goes into great details what those weapons are and the kinds of destruction that those weapons cause and how they are not meant to be used on densely populated areas. And this chapter talks at length about how Israel intentionally is trying to decimate the civilian population of Palestine. I mean, this chapter is something that everyone needs to read today because it really shows you what Israel is doing right now and has been doing since forever, since, you know, a long time ago. Gosh, it was just very, very frustrating. Let me see if I can find some of those. So yeah, again, I highlighted so much, but let me just try to find the stuff that's, oh yeah, here. So like, for example, it says here, Hamas's record paled next to the massive toll of Palestinian civilian casualties inflicted by Israel and its elaborate structures of legal discrimination and military rule. But it was Hamas that was stuck with the terrorist label, and the weight of the US law was applied to the Palestinian side of the conflict alone. Because this is the paragraph where they started talking about the USA Patriot Act of 2001, which said material support for terrorism was so broadly defined in the Palestinian case that almost any contact with an organization associated with a group that was placed on the blacklist, as Hamas and the PFLP were, could be considered a serious criminal act involving heavy penalties. And it talks about all the things that Israel was doing, but they are not recognized as terrorists, yet they are the ones who are committing terrorist act after terrorist act after terrorist act, which is what we are seeing today. So just because Israel is a state, it's supposedly not a terrorist, you can have state terrorist actors, which is exactly what Israel is. And we've seen for most of history that it's always the Muslims and the Arabs who are labeled as terrorists, and anyone else can get away with violence because it's self-defense. So this chapter actually talks about the legalities of, like, you know, some of the things and why whatever Israel does is always labeled as self-defense, because if it wasn't, then you're admitting to the world that they're war crimes, which they are, which are illegal, and then they would not be allowed to get all the funding that they do from the USA. So yeah, just very, very frustrating. But again, it talks so much about all the people how many people were killed and the kinds of weapons that are used and just everything that the, Palestinians were going through. Like, it talks about like these weapons, where they were manufactured, how much they weigh, and how much destruction they can cause. Like, it says the explosion of a 2,000-pound bomb produces a crater that is roughly 50 feet wide and 36 feet deep and sends lethal fragments to a radius of almost a quarter mile. 1 or 2 such bombs can destroy an entire multi-story building, many of which were leveled in Gaza City toward the conclusion of the Israeli air campaign at the end of August. And this is when we're talking about back in 2014. And we've seen multiple, like so many bombs used since last October that are 2,000 pounds or more that have caused this kind of destruction in Gaza. These are not the kinds of bombs or weapons that you are supposed to be using. You're not supposed to be using any weapons in a heavily populated civilian area, which is exactly what Israel is doing, and they have been doing because it's their intention to wipe out the civilian population. So yeah, this chapter talked a lot about that. It talked about the Dahiya, what was it called? I actually posted about this, the Dahiya doctrine. I actually posted an Instagram story about this the other day, and someone responded that they cannot believe that there's actually a name for this doctrine of intentionally killing civilians. So it says, the killing and mangling of 2014 of some 13,000 people, most of them civilians, and the destruction of the homes and property of hundreds of thousands was intentional, the fruit of an explicit strategy adopted by the Israeli military at least since 2006, when it used such tactics in Lebanon. The Dahiya doctrine, as it is called, is named for the southern suburb of Beirut, Al-Dahiya, which was destroyed by Israel's Air Force using 2,000 bombs and other ordnance. The strategy was explained in 2008 by Maj General Gadi Eisenkot, then head of Northern Command and thereafter Israeli Chief of Staff. Quote, what happened in the Dahiya quarter will happen in every village from which Israel is fired on. We will apply disproportionate force on it and cause great damage and destruction there. From our standpoint, these are not civilian villages. They are military bases. This is not a recommendation. This is a plan, and it has been approved. Like, this is their plan. It is written in plain English for everyone to see that they intentionally target civilians. And we saw the spokesperson of Blinken recently literally say live, he literally said, Israel has the right to target civilians. Like, they're not even trying to hide it. They were trying to hide it back last October when they were, very falsely claiming that this is all self-defense. They would always claim, oh, Hamas is hiding here, Hamas is hiding there, blah, 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 blah. But now they're very explicitly saying that they are targeting civilians. And what are we seeing? We are seeing death marches now. We are seeing men and boys lined up, marching to their deaths. They are being forced to line up. They are being forced to go into these ditches, which are dug up. Some of them are buried alive. Some of them are killed before being buried. But we are seeing exactly what happened during the Holocaust. Like, we are witnessing a Holocaust right before our eyes, and so much of the world is still silent. At least most of the board gaming world is still silent. Like all those Zionists who spoke up after October 7th, saying how terrible it was what happened on October 7th, have they spoken up again since then? Have they since spoken up to talk about what Israel is doing? No. So they spoke up when this one atrocity happened where, some Jewish people were killed, but have they spoken up since then when over 100,000 Palestinians have been killed? Like, no. So, people obviously very boldly or very obviously show that they care about certain groups of people, but not all groups of people. Like, it's perfectly fine for over 100,000 Palestinians to be killed, but it wasn't fine when they thought 1,000 or some Jewish people were killed. Like, that was a huge tragedy back then that they felt the need to make these videos. But since then, they have not even spoken about it once. And you see all of these people in this industry signing on to Gamers for Harris. Like, there's a website called Gamers for Harris. .com, where gamers, even people in the board game industry, have signed their names onto saying that they are voting for Kamala Harris for this election. Kamala Harris, who has made it abundantly clear that she will allow Israel to do whatever it wants. She will not stop Israel. She will not stop Israel. Like at a certain point, a couple of days ago, maybe it was a week or so ago, Biden and Kamala said that if Israel doesn't stop doing what it's doing, then they'll limit arms sales. And the date that they gave Israel to stop doing what it's doing is after the elections. Like, how fucking stupid do you think people are? Like, people who are smart enough to see that the US is actively committing a genocide. Like, it's not even just complicit, it's actively involved in this genocide. Like, people who are smart enough to see that are not stupid enough to fall for these lies again and again that this government spouts. Like, no one is giving into this duopoly bullshit anymore. Like, we know better now. We know how much of an active role our government is taking in this genocide, and those of us who know this are not voting for Kamala. And in my personal opinion, everyone who's signed on to this Kamala Gamers for Harris list is openly showing the world that genocide just is not a red line for them. Like, they don't give a shit about genocide. Like, nowhere in that website have they even talked about what is happening right now in Palestine. Like you're just going to ignore what a vast, like a huge portion of the US population cares about. You're just going to ignore it and not even talk about it. And instead you're trying to, make Kamala seem like this amazing choice for a president. Like, why are people still believing in this crap, election system that we have, which is just complete bullshit? Like, we are not really given a choice. When you have two candidates who are basically the same fucking thing, like, that is not a choice. Like, I don't know. I'm just really, really angry at everything that's been going on. And you can just see in the board game industry that people just do not give a shit. They just really don't give a shit. And someday in the future, when people start to question why so many were silent during this Holocaust, these same people that put their names on the Gamers for Harris website are going to try to convince you that they cared. They're going to try to convince you that this genocide mattered to them. It did not matter to them. Yet again, I will remind you that all of the people who participated in that fundraiser for Palestinian Children's Relief Fund many months ago, not once have any of those people ever mentioned the word genocide on any of their social media, from what I can see. They have not condemned Israel. They have not condemned Zionism. They have not mentioned the word genocide. They do not talk about a genocide currently taking place. So you can just remove those fucking watermelon emojis from your usernames because they don't fucking mean shit. And people are not this fucking stupid. Like, we can see what you stand for. And what you stand for is money. What you stand for is supporting your Zionist friends in this industry and not losing that Zionist money. And same goes for everyone on the Gamers for Harris website. Like, fuck all of you. Like, you all are showing that genocide is just not a red line for you. And you put those names on that website yourself. So you are telling on yourselves. You are showing the world yourself what you are. And so thank you, I guess, because you've shown the rest of us that genocide just does not matter to you. So thanks, I guess. You made the job easier for the rest of us to see what you are. So again, this chapter, I feel like everyone needs to read this chapter because, again, it talks at length about how Hamas came to be, and we see why it came to be: resistance. Like, they are resisting a colonial power. They are resisting colonization. They are resisting apartheid. And speaking of Hamas, the Hamas leader was recently killed, Yahya Sinwar. And I want to talk about his killing because one of the things that we saw Zionist propaganda say time and time again is that Hamas is, hiding in bunkers, it's hiding behind civilians, blah, 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 blah. Like, they're always trying to paint Hamas as this organization that is just hoarding all the wealth and not doing anything for the Palestinian people and not actually standing behind their ideals. Yet everyone who has posted about the Hamas leader being killed, you can see footage of him as he's missing an arm, throwing a stick at an Israeli drone in his last act of defiance. Like, that was the last thing he did, and that's the last footage we have of him, where he was actually fighting. He was not hiding. He was not a coward. He was fighting. He was resisting the occupation. He had one arm missing, and he used his other arm to throw a stick at an Israeli drone. And here's a reminder that the people in the past who were resisting occupation, for example, Nelson Mandela, or resisting apartheid, these people were labeled as terrorists in the past. So just keep in mind that people who were labeled as terrorists in the past are now seen as the freedom fighters that they actually were. Do I agree with what Hamas did on October 7th? No, I personally do not agree with killing any civilians. But these people felt they had no choice. I'm not Palestinian. I am not living in an apartheid state day in, day out. I do not have to live through a genocide. I do not have to live with worrying about whether I will have clean water to drink, whether I will have electricity, whether I will be able to get enough food to eat, whether I will be able to access healthcare. Like, these are not things I have to worry about, but these are things that Palestinians have to worry about every single day of their lives. And now what do Palestinians have to worry about? They have to worry about mass extermination. Like, Israel is making it very clear that the goal has always been extermination. Like, everything you see happening right now is clearly ethnic cleansing. It is clearly genocide. There is no hiding it. There is no ifs, no buts, no whatevers. Like, you can see what is going on. So I am not Palestinian, but I can assure you that if I were, I would probably agree with what Hamas did, because that was an act of resistance for them, because they have no other fucking choice. Like, what can they do? What can they do? And don't forget that Israel has killed far more Palestinians than Hamas has ever killed Israelis. Like, the numbers do not even compare. The numbers of Palestinian prisoners, of people kept in prison in Israel without ever being accused of any crime, is so astronomically high. We've seen reports from legitimate organizations that Palestinians are raped, they are tortured in these prisons, they have the most horrific things done to them. So if they're not being beheaded, if we are not seeing images and videos of Palestinians literally ripped to shreds, literally having their heads blown off, like the number of images and videos I've seen of babies missing their heads with their insides spilling out is honestly too many. Like, one would have been too many, but like, people are becoming desensitized to it, because we are seeing these images day after day after day. We are seeing images day after day after day of Palestinians ripped to shreds, with their heads blown off, with their insides spilling out of them. These are the images and videos we are seeing every single day. Like, this genocide is being broadcast to us as it's happening, and there are people who still want to fucking deny that a genocide is going on. Like, what is wrong with you? Like, seriously, what the fuck is wrong with you? I had a comment posted recently on a video of mine, which I eventually deleted, but first I had responded to it, but then YouTube deleted my response. But this person, like, very stupidly was like, oh, Palestine never existed. And then he like gave all these supposed facts about how Palestine was never a state. Like, how fucking stupid are you? Like, you're going to use what the Western colonial powers define as statehood to tell me that Palestine never existed. So because Palestine never had the chance to establish itself as a state according to Western concepts of statehood, Palestine just never existed? Like, what kind of fucking bullshit is this? Palestine did exist. It has existed for a very long time. There are history books, including from Jewish people themselves, who said that they were in Palestine. They did not refer to it as Israel. They referred to it as Palestine. Palestine did exist. Like, do not like come up with this colonial Western bullshit trying to explain why this genocide is justified, or that Palestine never existed. There were no indigenous people there, blah, 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 blah. Like the things that Zionists will say to try to convince you that what they're doing is okay is just insane. Like, and the more atrocities they commit, the harder and harder they will cry anti-Semitism and blood libel and all these other bullshit things that they will try to distract you and make you fearful into speaking out, because every single time they do something and it gets worse and worse, they're going to cry harder and harder that you're being anti-Semitic in order to silence you. They're going to cry harder and harder that, oh, this is blood libel, blah, 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 blah. Like, no fucking, it is not blood libel. It is not anti-Semitism. Like, seriously, these people are beyond despicable. And the Zionists in this industry stay silent. Like, since last October, we have not seen Quackalope again speak up, even though he completely was justifying the genocide as it began. Same with Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. He made a video and he told me in instant messages and direct messages on Facebook that he would correct his mistakes from his video, which he did not. He did not correct his mistakes. He never spoke about it again, as far as I know. So all of these Zionists in the industry who made their videos about all these horrible things that happened to them have not said a single fucking thing about the ongoing genocide of Palestinians. And everyone else just stays silent and signs on to support Kamala Harris for president. Like, this industry is fucking sick. It is really fucking messed up, and everyone should be fucking ashamed of themselves. And I will be sure to remind everyone when years from now, and everyone says that they were, against the genocide, that they spoke up. No, you fucking didn't. And I'm going to remind you, and I'm going to save this Kamala Gamers for Harris website and remember all of the names that were on this list. I'm going to remember all of the names of the people who did not speak up and are going to pretend that they always cared, because they didn't fucking care. They were Zionist shills all along, which is what most of this industry is. So yeah. So highly recommend that everyone read chapter 6, I believe it's chapter 6, the 6th Declaration of War, 2000 to 2014. And it goes all the way up to the end of President Obama's presidency, and his presidency, of course, which was a huge disappointment. Like, everyone thought that, oh, things are going to get better for the Palestinians. No, and in fact, as you can see, they did not get better. In fact, they got worse. So yeah, and fuck him, because now he's also fully supporting Kamala and the things that these people are saying, these politicians are saying. Like, I recently saw a clip of Kamala talking about the Palestinians with a smirk on her face. Like, she's literally talking about, oh yeah, like, I know that terrible things are happening to Gaza, and then she says, oh, but we have to remember that the first major atrocity was what happened on October 7th. And then whenever she talks about dead Palestinians, she's like smirking, and I'm like, shut the fuck up. Like, I just want to smack her so bad. Like, I fucking hate her. I really, really do. I don't know what else to say. Like, I'm just so angry. I'm just so angry. And I hate this industry. I hate the people in this industry. I think that they're all just fucking hypocrites and shills. And they know they are. Like, that's why whenever I used to be so, like, problematic in the past, they would, like, say things against me to try to shut me up. But what can they say? Are they going to say, no, Sarah is wrong? Like, we should not be condemning a genocide. Like, they literally cannot say that I'm wrong, because I'm not wrong. Like, they literally can't say anything right now because I am right. So yeah, and they are Zionist shows. Like, prove to us that you're not a Zionist show. Say something against the genocide. Like Suzanne Sheldon, who says anti-genocide in her profile, but has literally not once posted anything about Palestine. Like, are you really anti-genocide? Because it sure doesn't seem like it. Like, you make a big fucking deal about things relating to Kickstarter. Like, her whole Twitter profile is all about all the things she's done for diversity, and then she talks about, all the things about Kickstarter and how people in this industry are shit because they don't understand all the things that, publishers need to do for Kickstarters and this and that and blah, 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 but cannot devote a single tweet to posting about the genocide of Palestinians. Yeah, supposedly she's anti-genocide. Like, no, like, fuck you. Like, all of these people are just complete hypocrites and shills. So yeah, so that's that. So there is the conclusion of this left. So I think I'll just leave it to everyone to read the conclusion on their own. And I think maybe I'll discuss it in the next video. And for the next time, we should also decide which book we want to read. So do we want to stick with learning about Palestine? I would first like to ask that. So if you guys want something a bit easier to read, maybe we could read some graphic novels. I don't know. So I actually do own 2 graphic novels related to Palestine, and they're both by Joe Sacco. So I don't know if you guys know anything about him, but let's see. He is like, he's like a journalist. So let me see if I can just find a nice little blurb on him. I don't know if I can. Okay, yeah, here we go. In late 1991 and early 1992, at the time of the first Intifada, Joe Sacco spent 2 months with the Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza Strip, traveling and taking notes. Upon returning to the United States, he started writing and drawing Palestine, which combines the techniques of eyewitness reportage with the medium of comic book storytelling to explore this complex, emotionally weighty situation. He captures the heart of the Palestinian experience in image after unforgettable image, with great insight and remarkable humor. So this the 9-issue comics series won a 1996 American Book Award. It is now published for the first time in 1 volume, befitting its status as one of the great classics of graphic nonfiction. So that is Palestine. And then I think this one came after Palestine, which is Footnotes in Gaza. Yeah, I think this one came afterwards. So this one, actually, I guess I can just check the dates. That might tell us which one came first. So this one, it's copyright 2009, actually. And this one is copyright. Let's see if I can find the copyright date on this one. Oh, this one I actually published in, this one I bought in England. Oh, let's see, maybe the copyright date is on the back. This one is first copyright 1993. So this one is older, this one is newer. So would you guys be interested in reading one of these? Let me know. Or maybe an Ilan Papp book. So there are Ilan Papp books, and I've actually never read one of his books, so that would be interesting to read, I think, as well, if we want to stick with Palestine and learning about Palestine as the genocide is ongoing. And I've heard that his books are more palatable, more digestible. So let's see, Ilan Papp. So I've heard a number of his books are really good. How about, God, there's so many. How about The Ethnic Cleansing of Palestine? That one looks like it could be a good one. I wonder when that was published. Let's see. The Ethnic Cleansing of Palestine. When was that published? 2007. So that one's from 2007. Let me know what you guys would like to read. Leave in the comments below. Ooh, this one looks really good. I've heard a lot about this one, The 10 Myths About Israel. So maybe we should read that instead. Yeah, and that's by Ilan Papp. And that was published in 2017. I've heard that's really good, actually. So maybe we should read that. And that's only 192 pages. Let me know in the comments below what you would like to read for our next book club if you want to stick with Palestine. So let me know if you would like to read one of these graphic novels or one of the Ilan Papp books, which I mentioned. So please, if you are interested in continuing to keep Palestine in our thoughts and continuing to talk about Palestine, then please leave in the comments below what you would prefer to read next. If you would like a break from Palestine and you want to read something else, I'm also happy to read some other nonfiction book if that would interest you. I actually had purchased another nonfiction book, and I would still do both. So for people who are still interested in Palestine, I would continue to read a Palestine book, but I'd also be happy to add another book to the mix for those who need a break from learning about Palestine, though I hope no one wants to take a break from it because people don't get a break from genocide. Like the people who are living through genocide are not getting a break from it. But I bought this one book recently, some dinosaur book. I'm trying to remember the name. Let me see if I can actually find it in my Amazon orders, because I actually ordered it on Amazon. So maybe it'll be in here somewhere. Something about dinosaurs, which looked really interesting. I think it was like basically going through what life was like for the dinosaurs or something like that. It just seemed really interesting to me. Let me see if I can find it. Oh no. Oh, it's not coming up. I guess I bought it more than 3 months ago. Let's just look at all of 2024. Thank you for your patience as I scroll through my Amazon to see which book I ordered. Where are you? Or maybe did I buy it at the bookstore? Oh, here we go. Last Days of the Dinosaurs. So yeah, so let me know if that's something you would be interested in reading. So that's a book I bought, which sounded really interesting to me. It's called Last Days of the Dinosaurs by Riley Black, and that was published in October 2023. So if you want to read something nonfiction, but not about Palestine, happy to read that as well. So just leave in the comments below. For those of you who want to continue with Palestine, let me know what you would prefer to read next. And if there's anyone who wants to read this dinosaur book as well, leave that in the comments below. If no one responds saying that they want to read the dinosaur book, then I'm probably not going to do a book club for it because I already have enough other stuff to read then. So yeah, so please leave in the comments below what you would prefer. And yeah, so let's move on. So for question of the week, I don't know if I've asked this before, but I'm going to ask it again because Tend is launching soon, and it is a very combo-tastic flip and write game or and write game of that kind of genre, and I want to know what your favorite and write game is and why. So yeah, or tell me whether you just absolutely do not like those kinds of games and why. So yeah, so just please leave in the comments below what your favorite and write game is and why it's your favorite or why you just do not like games of that genre. Yeah, and I guess that's the question of the week, and until next time, bye!